Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Smith, Chief of Staff at CCN. Today, I'm the pleasure of chatting with our very own Andy Cox, CEO and founder of Cox Consulting Network, and CCN's Lisa Thuer, VP of Recruiting. We're here today to talk about the company's 6-year anniversary, 6 years of putting people first, 6 years of serving our peers in finance and accounting, and 6 years of award-winning growth. So let's get started with Andy. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
All right. So, Andy, why don't you give us a little bit of backstory about CCN? Where did everything begin?
The backstory of CCN is that prior to CCN, I had been working in consulting for a number of years. Through that process, I'd learned the business, per se. And so there was a lot of things that I loved about what we were doing, before. And there were some things that I thought maybe we could change up a little bit. And so I loved talking to clients. I loved talking to consultants. I loved how we were able to help clients get done what they needed to get done. What I didn't enjoy so much was the fact that consulting, for most of the industry, certainly the industry that we're a part of, is 100% markup business, at least 100% markup business. And so that means the consulting gets half the bill rate, and which is great, but that means the other half goes to the firm. And not just that, it's the fact that more is better. So the way you get margin in a consulting business is you pay less, you bill more, and then you're able to keep the rest. And so as we continue to have conversations with consultants, it was more of, hey, I told you could make $50 an hour on this project, but will you take 48? And then on the other side of that, the clients, who maybe would pay, let's say, $100 an hour, we try to increase that. The more margin you can build in this business, especially when you're a public company or you're private equity backed, then the better you look inside those four walls. That model doesn't necessarily make you a hero for your consultants and your clients, and so I realized you can't serve two masters. And so there was a point, in my career where I was doing this and said, really, if we did have investors, this would be a much easier conversation. And so that's really how it came around. It's like I hit a point in my previous firm where we were at an all-time high, and it was great, but it certainly wasn't the best, feeling in the world, knowing that we were doing on the backs of all the people who were actually doing the work.
So that led you to the current CCN model, which is no outside investors, right? So tell us a little bit about how that started and what that means for the consultants and for CCN.
It's kind of funny, looking back on this, it really was after 6 years of doing this at a firm that, I think is one of the best of the best. The conflict that I had as a salesperson in a firm was not necessarily with the company. It was with the model. For consulting firms that you could be public, you could be private equity backed, you could be VC backed, it really doesn't matter. People gave you money so that they could get a return on their investment. And this is really where I started realizing, I'm like, man, if somebody gave me money and they want to maximize their return, as they should, then maybe we shouldn't have investors in the consulting business. I know that's a very old statement, but that's really what I left with. It's like, hey, this is no dig at any company. It's the fact that the consulting business is made up of people. We're not selling computers or glasses or anything. I mean, what we're ultimately selling is people's hours. And so the way to maximize margin in that business is to pay less and bill more. That's kind of where I just came up with this whole thing of like, man, you can't serve two masters. And so to get to this, why did we choose no investors? Really, selfishly, it was because I didn't want to have conversations with investors at the end of the quarter about, hey, here's where we are, and here's how we're going to get to where we're supposed to be.
And be sweating at those numbers.
And that's what I was focused on, and so selfishly, it's like, I don't want to have those conversations anymore. But then what I began to realize was that if I don't have those conversations, what conversations can I now have with clients and consultants, because I don't have to worry about investors? And so there really was this aha moment during my year off with this non-compete where I'm like, man, there's an opportunity here to really change how we do things, how we serve consultants. And it originated with me not really wanting to have to worry about investors and the influence that investors have on a firm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, hey, this really translates into a good thing for consultants and for clients.
So let's talk about that for a second. One of the values that the organization has is, mission over profit, right? And we have a people first approach. Yep. So tell us a little bit, and, Lisa, I'd love your input too from your side of the house with working directly with our consultants and finding those people. When you're talking to them, how do they receive that, that mission or that value, I should say? What does that mean to them? And how does that help CCN along the way?
Yeah, I'll start that conversation and I'll let Lisa, chime in, who's been doing this, having those conversations with consultants for the last 2 years. People over profit wasn't hey, let me read a book and figure out, what service is about. People over profit was, continuing on what I was talking about before without having investors, it really was, how can we build a place for consultants that, and in accounting, if you've been in accounting for any amount of time, you realize that you chose a career where you're probably working nights, weekends, and holidays.
Absolutely.
So that comes with that's the nature of the work, as they say in accounting. And so that means at quarter end, you're working on quarter end close. At year end, during the holidays, you're focused on year end close. And then you move into audit. And there's all these deadlines. Mm-hmm. All industries have this. All professions have this. But in accounting, it's really evident. And so accountants work a lot of hours, especially if you're in a corporate role, fast-growing company, you're just going to work a lot of hours. And so this whole people over profit was like, hey, if we really are going to put our mission first of serving consultants, finance and accounting consultants, and give them everything we need, we can't be influenced by, like I said before, by outside investors, someone who's given us money and expects the standard industry rate of return for this business. That 100% markup drives a certain level of EBITDA. And we don't produce that because we leave money on the table and we give that to consultants so that they can have better work-life balance. So they're able to make more money per hour so that they can hopefully work less hours per year. And what do they do with that? Well, they can spend time with their families. They can go stare at a mountain. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about working. Not that we don't have deadlines. We certainly have, there's not any clients that we've ever been in where everything's steady state and there's no big rush on anything. I mean, we're very much aware of that. We're stepping into an environment where there's a lot of deadlines, but our mission to put people over profit is just saying, hey, look, we're here to serve consultants. We're going to bring in the best of the best so that they can go serve our clients and make our clients as happy as they can be. And so this model of deciding to not bring in outside investment, I tell clients this all the time, like, hey, the fact that we chose not to bring in outside investment really helps you more as a company who did choose to bring in outside investment. Like our model, we feel like we can serve you better because we don't have that influence. And so now we get to serve you. And we're happy that you're a private equity backed or a VC backed or you're going public because we feel like we can serve you better because we're not. Now it's all about you. And so I know I've really gone way off on a tangent about this people over profit, but it all is connected, and that's something that I realized very early on is like, man, if I can pay more, that means that I can bring in a better consultant, like a higher caliber consultant. So now we get a higher caliber consultant who's very happy making more money per hour, who hopefully is working less hours. So they're getting the quality of life that they want, and now they can go knock it out of the park. It's all connected, but this people over profit, Lisa will talk about this in a minute because when she came on, we're not a not-for-profit. We have to make, we want to pay people, all of our internal team, we want to have the best support that we possibly can for this network. So this is not a low-cost offering. A lot of times we go in at market rate, but we bring people to the market that hopefully are exceptional, and so that's really how it starts to make a difference. And I probably jumped 15 questions ahead, but that's really how that whole people first, that people over profit, mission over profit, that's how that works. But Lisa gets to have, I'm jealous of Lisa like you can't believe because every week she gets to have conversations with consultants or candidates who would like to do consulting about what we just talked about.
Exactly. Again, Lisa's our VP of recruiting. She's been with CCN just about 2 years now. So why don't you tell us, Lisa, a little bit about your role at CCN, how you and Andy met, what brought you to CCN, and then we can get into that whole what's the feedback from consultants. You get to That's right. You get to talk to them every single day, and we love our consultants. So
yeah, definitely. So I have been in the business for a little over 10 years, and it's been specific to recruiting finance and accounting consultants here in the Austin area, and has grown outside of the Austin area, including Texas as well. But Andy and I met at the prior company we both worked at, and we were a team together there where he was focused on the client side and I was focused on the consultant side. And when he left and started CCN, he was really doing a great thing here, and I think it was time for me to join him and do that too. So that's what I do here at CCN is I recruit all of our finance and accounting consultants. And as Andy said, I do talk to folks every day and get to tell our story. And I think just hearing the amazement from candidates and even our clients too on how our model's just completely different, I think that makes everybody want to be a part of what we do. And it is very hard to sift through who's our higher caliber folks versus, some who aren't, but still want to be part of our mission too. So
absolutely. Yeah, I know CCN has a good niche carved out inside of finance and accounting. And now I know you talked to Marissa earlier, moving into investor relations and some really exciting new things coming our way in 2024. But I just want to switch it just a little bit because I think it's important, being 6 years in now, right? Mm-hmm. Last year was the 5th year anniversary and also a really big year from a growth perspective. And so, I can start going through the list of amazing awards that CCN won last year. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk a little bit about what got us there. So just for everyone listening, CCN had a banner year, as we call it, our award season, mm-hmm. Which we love to talk about. Not just because, yay, growth and all of that, and, get to get up on the stage and say a few words about CCN, but really what got us here and who got us here, right? So in 2023, CCN won the Inc. 5000. We came in at number 1,359, which is in the top 30% in the U.S., number 140 in Texas, and number 45 in Austin, which is pretty awesome. We also won the Austin Business Journal Fast 50 Award for the second year in a row, coming in at number 9 small business in our category, number 19 overall. And also won the ACG Growth Award in our category, both in 22 and in 23. So 2 years, actually, of award season with the Inc. 5000 coming in at the top. So just a little background on that. But I think, Andy, tell us a little bit about how CCN got there in the last 5 years. That's some incredible growth and incredible awards to win.
Some of this, hey, we've been in a great market and we've had a great team in a great market. But I think when I look at our growth mm-hmm. and what got us here, the model is fantastic. You could talk about, hey, this model that, I was just talking about before, but the consultants that the model brought in, and the caliber of consultants that the model has brought in has been fantastic. But that's not enough because any firm could bring in exceptional people, maybe because they have an awesome name. I think what sets us apart is that our consultants believe in this mission that we have. You can't produce authenticity. You can't buy authenticity. You have to believe to be able to really buy into this authenticity and what we're trying to do. And so by us really setting out to serve consultants, said, hey, we want to give you everything you need. We want to pay you more. We want to make sure you get the time off that you need. We want to give you the best benefits that you possibly can get. We talked about, Lisa gets to talk about this every day, but, we pay for all their medical, vision, and dental. We give them a 5% dollar for dollar match on 401k with immediate vest. We give them HSA. All these things mm-hmm. we do because we're like, we want you to be able to be happy and productive at CCN. And so all those things, have enabled us to grow to where we are today. Exceptional recruiting, exceptional support, talking to the right companies. Those are all part of the recipe. But when you really get down to it, consultants come here and stay here because they believe wholeheartedly and trust us that we're doing something great for them. And we really are doing something great for them. That's not some ego-driven thing. Like here we are trying to serve our peers in finance and accounting. And we talk about consultants a lot because this is why we built this. Like, hey, we want y'all to come here because we know if you do, clients are also going to want to be a part of this. Why wouldn't they? You can transfer that to the client too. Like clients also win because of this, because if we have exceptional consultants on engagements, that means a client can get to go home earlier and spend time with their family or stare at a mountain or whatever it is that they want to do. And so this isn't just a, hey, we're only focused on the consultant. No, we realize what great consultants do for clients. And so when you talk about growth, even with a great market, we wouldn't have this growth if people didn't truly believe in what we're doing. And so I think that's what really matters.
The other thing is, too, is we tend to really, I don't want to say target a certain audience, but there's a lot of working families, right, that have to do their 9 to 5. But within finance and accounting, it's more than 9 to 5. And I think a lot of people just light up knowing that they could have more family time, more flexibility, and still do the same thing they have been doing.
That seems to be a common thread in our different conversations with our consultants. I'm sure, you talking them in every day in and out. It's one of the biggest features of CCN is being able to honestly say to them, transparently say to them, you can have time with your family. You can have time to go. Andy always likes to say stare at the mountains because that's what he likes to do.
I like to hike a mountain.
I know. The mountains call you on a regular basis. But to be able to say that to somebody and mean it is very different than saying it and then not being able to serve that.
Yeah, and I think that comes through, because you're like, well, everybody says, they're here to serve. Yeah, we provide work-life balance, or we're here to serve, or we want to be your partner, or all these things. And I think it comes through in, do you put your money where your mouth is? And, to say, hey, we've given millions of dollars back to consultants over what the market should pay is a testament to what we're doing. All right, because we could be like, hey, we want to be your partner. We want to make sure that this is the best place for you. And then just leave it at that, and that'll get you so far until you realize that, hey, that's not actually what you believe. But we have done that. We have given millions of dollars back. I mean, we can quantify this, and we do know that people stay longer because of the work-life balance that we provide and all the things that we do provide. And I really feel like we're just getting started. Like we're kind of figuring out how do we take care of a group of people. This isn't new. There's a lot of companies that do a really good job of taking care of their people. I think what we're really trying to figure out is how can we maximize that to the full potential, right? Like we said, hey, we are a for-profit. We do want to make money. We do want to grow. We need to invest in our infrastructure, our team, all the things. But we also set out to serve consultants, and so it creates interesting conversations, internally. But I think, man, we're really just getting started on that front.
I think so too. And I think I'm just a year in at CCN. And so, but having watched it from its, first baby steps, back, when we were really coming up with this idea, it's been really amazing to see it grow. And not just from a revenue perspective or a number of consultants or number of clients or jobs or whatnot, but just from the passion that everybody has for CCN. And I want to share a little story. No, I'm not going to talk about, your year off of, sitting in the pool all day. But, we just went through a big strategic retreat, our entire internal team, right? This is the first time in 5 years that CCN has, got it together. And we're like, we're going to make some real targets and goals and team building and bonding. Andy and I, in prepping for this, sat down and drafted the company values. And we threw all these words on a whiteboard and we crossed them off and
trust and heart.
Made funny faces at each other when we're like, that's not going to work, or, what is it? We just kept going back and forth and round and round. The best part was at the end of that, when we finished our drafts, looking at them, they were exactly the same as the values that you had put forth a few years ago and saying, this is what CCN's about. Now, did we refine them a little bit and come up with some, more clarifying way of speaking to them? But really, to me, was able to show that you've always lived by those values CCN has, right? And everybody that you bring into the door on the internal team, on the consultant side, even our clients, live those values and appreciate that. I think that is extremely powerful and really shows what CSAN's about.
Yeah, I remember going back to like page 1 of the deck going, we already got this.
We're like, no.
Why did we just spend a few hours working on this as a part of a retreat?
Creative outlet for a while.
Yeah, I'm like, it's all right here.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, there was not really this formal exercise when I created, these values, this whole mission over profit, as I talked about before. Like, that was real. Because I can remember even talking to CFOs and being like, man, that really sounds like a not-for-profit. I'm like, well, then I guess I'll go work at Home Depot. Like, this is how I want to do it, know? And even the transparency, which we've not really talked about too much, but certainly people first, mission over profit, transparency. Like, these are all things that we're doing because this is how we want to do it. And this is how we feel like we can serve our peers in finance and accounting. When I started this, I have a finance background. And it was like, I didn't start out in sales or I didn't, there was no like, hey, how can I create this atmosphere? I was like, man, I really just want to serve my finance and accounting peers, but I want to make money. There's no issue with that. But I think it really was from an attitude of service and not just lip service, but saying, hey, how can we really do this? How can we really, like I talked to Carrie Bryan earlier, who's been with us, since day one, very first consultant. And I remember very clearly going, hey, this is what, the market would pay you. This is what we want to pay you. How does this sound? And she was just like almost in tears. So
this could be life-changing.
It should be. There's no secret recipe here other than we believe in what we're doing is truly helping people, period. And if we didn't, then we would just go be a part of some roll-up strategy. But that's not, we're not for sale. I can tell you, firsthand that if people were interested in acquiring us, they probably wouldn't be overjoyed at the EBITDA that we can do. So, there's a lot of things that we can go into to talk about, hey, well, how are you doing things differently or why are you doing things differently? It all just comes down to how we serve people. And I think that's really what we're trying to do. That's what feels good to me. Certainly at my age, I love serving companies that have an exit strategy. Like, how exciting is that? But I think being able to do this the way we do it is certainly gratifying. And hopefully everybody feels that.
Absolutely. Lisa, what are some surprising lessons that you've learned along the way in your last 2 years, especially coming out of a different type of environment? It's still in the consulting space, but what's something that's been surprising to you?
Well, the main thing I think obviously is what we've talked about this the whole time is that you can really attract some great talent if you put a good model in front of somebody, right? Because I will say at the prior firm, you're limited to what type of talent you can bring in based on what you can pay somebody.
Sure.
I would also say we get probably some more exciting opportunities from a consultant standpoint, like what are you actually going to get to work on? What type of client is it? That sort of thing. I would say those would be the most surprising things. But I think what came hand in hand with it is since there's not pressure to hit a certain type of target or growth perspective, anything like that, it seems to lower the stress all the way around for everybody involved, including the consultants as well. I think they can feel that there's no pressure to work a certain amount of billable hours. There's no pressure to take a job because of the price that you're setting on the bench. There's no, it's just kind of trickles down the pipeline, I guess you would say.
Just to add on to what she's saying, like, I can remember, starting many conversations recruiting with, hey, what is it that you're currently making? Well, that equates to this amount per hour. Are you okay with that? And most people are like, yeah, can we bump it up a little bit? I'm like, sure, we can bump it up a little bit. And Lisa's able to have conversations now and go, hey, look, here's what we think the market rate is. So, and here's what we need to be able to keep doing this next year. The rest is yours. And so that full transparency, working through this thing backwards, is a really eye-opening experience from a candidate perspective. Sure. And then even just talking about, the pressure of, hey, how are we going to get to where we need to be? Well, I get asked all the time, how many consultants do you have out? And most of the time I'm like, I don't know. I'm like,
I do.
67, maybe 64. I don't know.
Yeah. In the ballpark.
Yeah, because And I often tell clients, we're like, so you don't know? I'm like, well, that's a great thing for you that I don't know.
Yep.
Believe me, because I've known before. And the reason I know is because there's a number that we have to get to.
Everything's tied back to it.
Yeah, we need to get to this number. What are we going to do? That creates pressure,
On our team, yeah.
on our team. And we don't want that kind of pressure. What we want to do is keep people as busy as we possibly can and for them to experience this model. Right? So that's what really motivates us to grow is like, hey, how can we get more people exposed to this model? We invite our competitors to go to do this model, and if we have consultants all the time, say, hey, look, I had somebody call me. I told them this is what I make, and I'm not interested if they can't talk about this kind of rate. And it's usually like, yeah, we can't do this kind of rate. So is it a competitive advantage? Hell yes, but and we're not going to change that. But if there's consultants that, do get that same rate matched, then we're like, well, then they win. Like, hey, we hated that they're gone, but now we know what the market rate is, So, like, we learned a lot from our consultants because they have totally bought into what we're doing and that we're serving them. And so they're happy to share, what market pay rates are so that we can make sure we're always paying more. So Lisa gets to have, like these really great conversations with our consultants about where they've been, how they've done it before, what are they looking for. I was talking with Carrie Bryan and equated it to kind of like selling a house. Like, hey, what are you looking for? Let's see if we can find it.
Yeah.
Like, let's see how many boxes we can check on the perfect project or the perfect consulting firm.
After this great banner, 5-6 years here, what do you see as next for CCN?
Yeah.
Is there something big coming? Is there something? Are we just like,
Lots of
we're just moving forward?
Tons of big.
Tons of big. I love tons of big.
Well,
tell us what's big.
On this whole March 22nd thing, was so funny is because I knew going in and I was like, okay, man, just to set this thing off to a great start, I'm going to go serve for one morning on our very first day of business. This is the day I can legally compete in this market again. Yep. I'm like, I'm going to Community First Village because I just want to set the tone. And so I went to Community First Village and washed RVs. It was just great. I mean, it's never been. It's a great experience. Amazing. And I'm glad I did that. But I got back and presented like first consultant out and lost a deal because I was about a half day late.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, man, what is this a sign? Like, really? But I think where I'm going with this is that we talk about, hey, we want to serve and we look a lot like a co-op and all these things. But no, like we are very, very focused on growth. And we're so focused on growth that we want to be the largest consulting firm that we can possibly be. Do we want to be the biggest in the nation? We don't really give a crap about that, but we do want to do more things and we want to go places. And so you talked about, what's next. I hope it's a lot more of the same. I mean, if we can continue to tackle markets, in other states, like we've expanded like a lot of other firms because of the pandemic. We can all work virtually now. We want to be more known to markets outside of Austin.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're focused on. Are we going to expand on our offering? We just started investor relations. Like we're very excited to have Marissa Vidari join us, to launch that investor relations offering. But I don't see it as much of an expansion of our offering as expanding on the markets that we play in. And we really want to make sure that we do everything we can so that consultants in other markets and clients in other markets can experience what we're doing. That's what we're going to keep doing. We're not changing the model. We're not going to start saying, hey, how can we produce more EBITDA or how can we do this? We're always going to continue to focus on how can we get consultants the best rate, the best benefits, and, and everything that they want, and that's why we survey consultants. That's why we talk to consultants. That's why Lisa is always trying to make sure she understands, what do we need to be doing so that we can continue to work with these great people. I've always wanted to say, hey, how can we layer in real estate? How can we give consultants these perks of, hey, you know what, you can go stay in Hawaii. Why don't you go stay there for 2 weeks? Or why don't you go do this? Or, so there's some really cool things that we can do, but they're all consultant related.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think what Marissa, talking about investor relations and kind of how does that change what we're doing? Well, hopefully it means we've been very much in a kind of an order taker type of firm, which we love because that means we're getting a lot of referrals, and we've grown a lot by referrals. We've grown a lot by consultants talking to their past employers, to their past colleagues. But what we want to do is become more proactive, and so we're really making sure that we're getting our megaphones out, and that we're, right now we're working on building a sales team because we're not just happy enough with where we are from a referral standpoint. We love it, and we hope we continue to get them because that means we're doing something right. But we got to get out there and really start talking to the market about what we're doing. And so we're building a sales team. We're making sure that, as we build a sales team, we're not following the playbook on sales because that's not what we're interested in doing. Right. If we're going to do consulting differently, well, then we're certainly going to do sales differently. And so, but we're going to do it. I mean, we really feel like this is an opportunity to grow, even in a down market. We should look really good in a down market. And so we're excited about that. And we want to really focus on having more proactive conversations with our clients, And so, like I said, we've been order takers. You know what? We really want to flip that table around and go, look, we've got expertise in all these areas. We know you're here, and maybe you think you're here, and maybe your investors think you're here, but you got to get to an exit. And so how can we help you get to an exit? And so we really want to make sure we're being proactive with our conversations. So I see that really changing for us. But there's not a dramatic shift. We're not going to grow by acquisition. We're not going to be a part of a roll-up. We're not going to do, technology or marketing or sales or whatever. We're going to continue to focus on finance, accounting, and now investor relations. And then really investor relations, the way that all came together was that the investor relations community really rolls up to the CFO. That's an accounting, finance and accounting ultimately rolls up to the finance. Yeah. So that wasn't a stretch for us to go out and launch that. And so I don't see us, expanding our footprint from that standpoint, but I do see us expanding from a geographic standpoint.
And I do think it's important to point out too, it's the Cox Consulting Network. So your name's all over it, but it's also the network, right? And so we encourage our consultants to get out there and talk about CCN to their peers and in there, not just from former clients or former employers of theirs, right? But Lisa, do you want to speak to that just a little bit about some of the messaging and how we encourage our consultants from that perspective?
Definitely. I think it kind of happens organically too. I mean, most of our consultants are absolutely thrilled to be working for us. And so it's a natural conversation for them to want to talk to their friends and peers that are also accountants to introduce them to CCN so they can have better work-life balance and better pay. But we also incentivize as well, and we want to take care of our consultants for doing that. So we do offer, you can say, commission or for our consultants who do that. And it's a very, I think it's a very generous commission plan that we do offer, and it adds up pretty quickly. And I think a lot of our consultants give us that feedback as well that, hey, we didn't realize that can add up.
It's not just time I'm putting in a client, but I can refer people in. I get a benefit from that as well.
Absolutely. And they can even do that within the client that they're on too, seeing where else can we help out there.
I think that generous approach, and there's a piece for everybody. A piece of the pie belongs to everybody. I think that just goes to show that we're, it shows that we're living those values, right? We're transparent. This is what you can get. It's not just about keeping the money in the pocket of CCN. It's about sharing. It's about serving you so that you can be the most successful you can be. And, naturally and organically, CCN's name just starts to grow out there in the market and getting people that live all around the country now. So that's been exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than, when you're going to go buy a product, you want to know what your peers thought about that product. It's just things that have been known in marketing and whatever space you may be in for a long time. But when consultants talk about their engagements, what they're getting, their time off, all these great things, I think their peers, their friends, their family, their past employers, they're certainly listening. And so, we've worked for clients and they've turned around and come to work for us. You know what I mean? And so that's when like something's really working because they see the service they got and and we didn't talk about transparency yet. They see what the consultants are making,
Absolutely,
which clients never get to see. And so we share all of that with our clients. Like, hey, here's all the components of the bill rate.
Right away.
What we're getting. Here's what the consultant's getting. Here's payroll taxes and benefits. Like, here it is, just so you know. And they see that, and I'm like, crap, man, I know what I'm going to do when I'm, done wherever, XYZ company. I'm going to come work for y'all.
Yes.
Can you keep me busy? And so that's what we're focused on right now is how do we keep people busy? We did a great job in 2023 in a crappy market. We stayed flat. And we ended the year, as y'all know, celebrating like crazy because we stayed flat. We're not happy with that. So in a down market, we want a bigger piece of the pie, and so that's what we got to work on. And I think that's going to be a big enough goal,
I think
so. But I'm excited to tackle it because that means more people are getting to do what they love.
Yeah. All right, last question. So speaking of busy, each of you, what are you looking most forward to this year, personally or professionally? So.
Oh, well, professionally, I don't have
either or
the number at the top of my head, but I don't want to say I want to double my book of business, but if we can get closer to that, if it's going to be a great economy, I think we can add a lot more consultants to the group. That would be great. And we have some new internal people that it would be nice to get everybody up to speed and everybody happy, and which is just going to add more growth.
Absolutely. What about personally? What are you looking forward to this year?
You just had a new truck.
Well, I've got my horses. They're going to get more things. Let's just say that. So
they're going to live the even cushier life.
Yeah,
I love that. What about you, Andy?
Well, professionally, almost 6 years of doing this, I'm like, I hope, we continue to grow our support team. It's been a blast doing this, but it's a lot of work supporting consultants, and so. I'm looking forward to, you talked about you being here for a year as you grow in your role, and Lisa's now been here 2 years and continues to grow in her role. It makes my job so much easier. And so, professionally, I don't think when I think about 2024, I'm like, man, if we can get everybody in the seats that they need to be in, doing what they love, and can continue to support them so that they can support our clients and consultants, how awesome. Personally, man, I love to hike. So like Charlie is now 15. Jackson's never been on a hike, with me and my brother. Lexi, I'm sure would love to go. Like I want to get out on the trail more.
Yes.
So selfishly, I'm like, man, let's get this team where it needs to be because I would love to be on the trail. That's where I grow, is certainly outside. I like to get out every morning. And run, before daylight often, just because I think that's a great place for me to kind of energize, think about the day, process things. And so, man, it happens tenfold on a trail. So, I'm looking forward to doing that. But, we have family vacations and I got a lot of farm time. Let me say this. I need to have a lot of time at the farm. So there's a lot of work out there to be done. So I got a whole list of things.
Good.
What's funny is this. I took that year off, with the non-compete before I started this. Remember this? And so there were days where I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And literally didn't do anything because I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yep.
And now, just like, Murphy's Law, like, oh, it's a ton of things, man.
I had that back.
There's so much. Yeah, like, man, this is awesome. Like, I would love to be doing this more.
Those are the days when happy hour started at 4.
That's right. Yeah, that was the new happy
happiest of hours.
That was really good.
But this is better.
This is much better. Yeah, I really like where we are. I like what we're doing. I like the fact that we followed through on our model. We didn't pivot. We didn't change. We didn't say, hey, we should try to make more money. We didn't do anything. We just said, hey, look, let's just every day, let's wake up and see how we can serve the people that decided to join us for a reason. I look at my work as something that is one of the most fun things I've ever done.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Lisa. This has been great chatting with you guys on the eve of the 6-year anniversary that we're going to be celebrating.
Are we having a party or are we sorry?
I think I spent that budget last year. No, but we are going to Vegas with our consultants. So I'm super excited about that at the end of April. But thank you again for being here, for answering these questions and just sitting down with us and getting to know you guys a little bit better. More about
I love it. I love talking about it.
So be sure to follow Cox Consulting Network on LinkedIn and other social media platforms for interviews, market insights, and opportunities. And of course, check out ccnserves.com to learn more about our consulting, recruiting, and investor relations services. We'll see you next time.